So the next question I had is, um, for a lot of novices, a big struggle for them is keeping up with the research burden of higher level rounds. So like for example, people read like five contention cases, have tons of disads, blocks, all sorts of stuff. And I mean, some people might have like teams who have um all the resources, but a lot of other people might be like really small school or not have access to a lot of resources and have to do a lot of prep themselves. So do you have any advice for the research process and prepping if you're like from a smaller school with less resources and you're just starting out?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is that it's definitely viable to like make friends around the circuit and form prep groups that way, whether it be like at camp, through Reddit, through Discord, or just like hopefully next year with things maybe in person, touching grass and actually talking to people in real life at debate tournaments. It's definitely viable. I would highly recommend that. Some of my best friends like across the circuit that I still talk to, even though I'm at this point a second year out, are from like teams we've hit, lost to, said hi to, and then formed a prep group with us. So shout out to Los Altos for that. um, so yeah, that's the first thing. Um, I would also recommend that people just in general get lots of background knowledge on individual topics. What this means is like for the Baltics topic, which is this one, if you're it like if teams are reading disads about like Ukraine or something like that, you should know as much as you can, or like not as much as you can, but you should know all of the most basic facts and the history of the Ukraine conflict, because otherwise you will be like completely outmatched in these rounds. So a very, very basic way to like fill that information gap is literally just reading the wiki article on the Ukraine conflict. Things like that, in my opinion, are incredibly helpful. Because yeah, you get lots of background knowledge that you can use later in rounds. Um, and it's also very generalized. Also, like listening to podcasts for fun is generally pretty good about that. Even if they're like not topic specific, maybe there's a topic like a couple months down the line where it is. So like I listen to some Bitcoin topics. People happen to read Bitcoin DAs for whatever reason, and I had flux to that just because I like had that background knowledge that I can pull my just like get immediately. And then the last thing I would say is that when people are reading like a little bit of squirrelier like disads or contentions and stuff in round that you haven't heard, you should immediately start like Googling some of the information they're talking about. So if people say like, um, or like one thing we heard was some argument about Bahrain and like Iran. So we Googled Bahrain and Iran relations, and we realized that like what was actually happening was the exact opposite of what our opponents were saying. And this was like at the TOC. So it was like a TOC level dissad. But it was the complete opposite of what like they were insinuating. So we're like, actually, it doesn't make sense that Iran would support them. Or like, actually, Iran is like so supportive of them that nothing can change it, even like in an affirmative world. So just again, very basic Googling, Wikipedia is your friend, things like that can be really helpful as well.
Right. And I think it's something we talked about on the other podcast, like getting background knowledge for things like I think even if you're not, even if you have blocks, it's still a good idea. Like frontlining, even in cross, it makes you look a lot smarter. And just in general, background knowledge, things like, and like you said, mid-round Googling is also a huge help. I've done it a lot. Something else people we've all always recommended, maybe it becomes a little bit easier at higher levels, but prepping sort of generic disads. I don't know if disads might be the right word, but just generic arguments that you can, or generic terms that you can sort of reapply to other arguments. That's a good way to like decrease the prep burden.